What's cracking YouTube? It's your boy though, back again with another reaction. We got a recommended video from my guy Cole Woodard. And it's how Anderson Silva tarnished his once perfect legacy, man. But before we get into this, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're 3 subscribers away from 920 subs. Let's get it!
In 2013, Anderson Silva sat higher atop the UFC than arguably anyone had before. The top pound-for-pound fighter in the sport, and considered by many to be the greatest of all time, Silva's ascent seemed unstoppable. He earned the middleweight title in 2006, then defended it over and over and over, and then for good measure took some fights at light heavyweight along the way. He won those too. Every single fighter the UFC threw his way, Silva beat. Chael Sonnen came the closest to toppling the Spider, but even then, Silva's patience and composure paid off. From there, he knocked out Vitor Belfort, stopped Yushin Okami, had a much easier time against Sonnen in their rematch, then sent a PED-filled Stephan Bonner home with a loss. He put together the UFC's longest winning streak ever. He defended his middleweight championship belt a record 10 times, and he did it regularly in remarkable fashion. At 37 years old, Silva had set himself up to be remembered as the greatest to ever enter the octagon. But about that.
That green screen miss!
What's most unfortunate is it didn't have to be like this. In late 2012, following that win over Bonner to make it a record 16 straight, Silva told UFC officials Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta that he wanted to retire. Frankly, Silva sounded over it. He focused on what his success had been keeping him from. But while Silva thought of his family, UFC brass thought of the money that would depart with their star. Not long after their talk, White gifted Silva a Bentley. The champ doubted this was a, hey, thanks for all you've done for us present, and more of a, let's chill on that retirement talk sort of Bentley. Whatever the intention, Silva stuck with the organization and by March had his next title defense lined up. Chris Weidman may not have had the name recognition of other challengers, but one could easily see how this wouldn't be a walk in the park for Silva. Undefeated at 9-0, many expected the former All-American wrestler to follow the lead of Sonnen and Dan Henderson, who had exploited Silva's questionable takedown defense. Plus, Weidman really had nothing to lose going up against the all-time great. But for Silva, while he'd agreed to the fight, he still found himself considering life after MMA, even promising his wife that if things went well, retirement could be the next step. It's worth noting that these quotes came in 2020, with plenty of hindsight available. In the moment, some of his actions portrayed slightly different hopes for the future, although still with confusion as to his wants versus those of the UFC. If nothing else, Silva sounded comfortable with whatever fate had in store. Each fight required a winner and a loser, and one result wouldn't wash away everything he'd accomplished. That mindset, though, should not be misconstrued as Silva lacking confidence. Once the main event at 162 began, for better or worse, vintage Silva entered the octagon. He did whatever he could to get in Weidman's head, looking to throw the challenger off his game so Silva could get a chance to counter. He repeatedly dropped guard, going so far as to beg for punches with his hands on his hips, and that came after Weidman had already taken him down and done some damage. Weidman forced Silva to eat some jabs, but Silva simply laughed and...
His fist is damn near in his mouth.
Silva to eat some jabs, but Silva simply laughed and continued goading Weidman. The first round ended with a kiss from the champ. To start the second, Silva kept toying with Weidman, but he eventually took it too far. Silva pretended to be hurt after a left hook. Then, as Weidman pursued, the Spider dodged all he could before the challenger landed a heavy shot to Silva's jaw. No longer playing, Weidman jumped on Silva.
That's what you get. You playing. See, you supposed to be getting straight to it if you playing. That's what got your ass knocked out.
But as soon as he hit the mat and finished him there. The first blemish on one of the greatest UFC careers, and it came after Silva laughed his way straight into danger. Stunned, Silva watched for the first time as his challenger became the champion. From the octagon, he praised Weidman and made zero excuses for the loss. Then, after Weidman's immediate offer of a rematch, let it be known that he had no intention of reclaiming the title. He was tired. Not retired, just tired. That didn't stop Dana from immediately putting the idea of a rematch into the universe, though. And even with his lack of desire, Silva opened as the favorite in a hypothetical rematch. It proved Silva's pre-fight thoughts. One outcome won't alter a legacy like his. Contemporaries, similar living legends, agreed that nothing had changed. He just got caught. So that meant 3 days later, when Silva decided a rematch actually did sound good, the thought of him getting caught a second time seemed unlikely. Weidman had Silva's respect, but also his attention. The way the former champion spoke, he recognized the mistakes that needed to be fixed, hung the loss on himself, and viewed the rematch as an opportunity to overcome all of that. With the rematch set for just 5 months later, Silva had plenty he wanted to prove and a knockout he planned on returning. But amidst the usual trash talk leading up to UFC 168, Silva also opened up more about his future. The end continued to be on his mind, and although he'd fight on, he admitted that
See, that's the problem. When you ain't 100% in, that's when shit starts to, you know what I'm saying, unfold. You could be the best all time, and then that one day you like, man, I don't even want to do it no more, no cap. And all that shit starts to crumble because you ain't 100% in it no more.
that might not be the
Look
case.
like
for
that's what
much longer.
Anderson Silva's
In
doing.
December, Silva returned to the same stage where he'd lost not long before. But of all the dramatic outcomes imaginable, the one that unfolded may have been the most unfortunate. A competitive round one went in Weidman's favor, with both fighters dealing damage. Each shot from the champ looked to prove his victory hadn't been a fluke, while Silva avoided the mind games that got him in trouble the last time. As round two began, the fighters spent some time feeling each other out, but when Silva fired a leg kick, one he's thrown countless times, Weidman checked it.
And his
That
shit
check
snapped.
shattered
I remember
Silva's
that.
shin and sent him to the mat after trying to put weight on it. It's pretty brutal, so we're not going to show it, but
Yeah, I don't
if
wanna
you're
see that
into that
shit.
sort of thing, it's pretty easy to find. A broken tibia and fibula ended the night and meant a second shocking result, but for new reasons. Back-to-back losses, plus a horrific injury, the 38-year-old had gone from an opportunity to retire on top to a long road back, both to health and the opportunity to leave the sport on a win. Thankfully, Silva's successful surgery, which came immediately after the fight and involved a titanium rod being inserted into his leg, had
God.
just a 3 to 6 month recovery time. While the last two fights left Silva with uncertainty as to if he should call it a career, this result shifted tides. The Spider viewed it as a sign from God to continue fighting. So, as soon as Silva returned to nearly 100%, the UFC booked his return, a massive showdown with Nick Diaz. Silva had pretty high expectations for what this 5-round main event could become. His family life still appeared to be top of mind, but unfortunately for them, with a reignited passion, he now planned to keep fighting. And not only did he plan to keep fighting, he said that he wouldn't stop until he got his title back. To make sure he'd have time to return to that point, the 39-year-old Silva signed a new 15-fight contract with the UFC. Not that he necessarily needed all of those fights. White said that if Silva beat Diaz, a shot at the belt would follow. Silva had to be the one to get the boss to pump the brakes. But before another title run, UFC 183 loomed. And with it came a whole new series of ups and downs. Diaz took a page out of Silva's book and did whatever he could to get in Anderson's head.
What?
At one point, straight up lying down on the mat, hoping the former champ would make a poor decision early on. Silva stayed focused though, and grew more comfortable using his surgically repaired leg. Both veterans coming off long layoffs, they somehow managed to grind out the full 5 rounds. With Diaz looking a bit worse for wear, it went to the judges' scorecards. Unanimously, the decision went Silva's way, sending him to his knees overwhelmed with emotion. The hard-fought victory led to familiar questions. Back to his winning ways, Silva again faced a decision. This time, though, news a few days later complicated things.
Bruh, oh my god. This is sad, because you see it's the pride and the ego tarnishing he's tarnishing himself because his pride and his ego. He don't want to go out like that. And it's like, bruh, you lost. Okay, you got knocked out once. Cool. You broke your leg in the other match. Okay. I would be like, technically I lost that 2, but to me I really lost 1 because he did catch me and I got knocked out. But to continue fighting and you really not 100% into it, that's not a good mix, bro.
Pre-fight drug screening results returned and both fighters got popped. For Diaz, just weed. For Silva, anabolic steroids. This kicked off a lengthy process. A few days later, another failed result, this time for the post-fight urine test. The small price, it cost Silva his spot as a coach on The Ultimate Fighter. It wouldn't be until August that the disciplinary hearing finally gathered. Silva's team accused a tainted sex pill for the contamination, but the commission didn't buy it. He received a 1-year retroactive suspension as well as fines related to his pay from the event. Most importantly, the commission officially overturned the result.
Wow.
Anderson's failure came following those similar to John Jones and Bigfoot Silva, but as Chuck Mindenhall put it, this case felt different. The Spider represented the athletes who competed the right way, having attained a near mythical status within the sport. But this singular moment had the power to undo so much of that. Even the man himself, ahead of his fight with Diaz, made it pretty clear how he viewed cheaters. But now, Silva remained adamant that that wasn't him. He'd never disrespect himself or the sport by taking a banned substance. Those missed chances to retire now compounded a new low for Silva. While support from his peers varied, the UFC stood behind their fighter. And for Silva, the best way to prove innocence was to keep fighting, just cleanly. His first chance came against Michael Bisping, who made no attempt to hide his now conflicted feelings for Silva. Bisping expressed a likely common sentiment among both fighters and fans alike: what to make of a tarnished idol. Even without the failed tests, over 3 years had passed since Silva's last victory. But facing Bisping, for a moment, Silva thought he'd gotten that now elusive win. He landed a jumping knee as Bisping said something to Herb Dean. The shot sent Bisping to the floor, but the horn sounded to end the round. Silva's celebration proved premature as Bisping managed to take him the distance. And once the judges had their say, Silva added another loss to his record.
See,
a few months later, the same result, albeit very different circumstances. Silva agreed to face Daniel Cormier. Not only did that mean going up to 205, but he did it on just 2 days' notice. The somewhat dull fight unanimously went DC's way, but the fact Silva battled the full 3 rounds without a...
This is just a message to the youngins. When it's all said and done, don't let your pride and ego make you do shit like this. Cause this is sad. It's just sad, bro. It should never got it to this point.
A camp. The fact his opponent admitted to being awestruck by the sight of Anderson in the octagon, there still remained glimpses of the fighter he used to be. This modern Silva just couldn't shake controversy though. Even in his next fight against Derek Brunson when his winless streak finally snapped after 4 years. While the judges called it unanimous, according according to MMADecisions.com, only 4 of 23 media outlets scored it in Silva's favor. Brunson called bullshit after outstriking his opponent 118-54 and notching the only 2 takedowns of the fight. Even Dana White thought Brunson had earned the win. Silva wouldn't let those opinions get to him, though. In a long Facebook post following his win, he proclaimed himself to be the best in the world, to the joy of many and the sorrow of others. But from there, it would be 2 years before the best in the world fought again. 2 weeks before an on-again, off-again date with Kelvin Gastelum, word broke that once again Silva failed a drug test. And once again, it left the sport unsure of what to think. Anderson made a meandering post on Instagram that referenced nothing specifically but said he needed to learn, he felt sadness and uncertainty of what would come. Silva and his team went to work to prove if something had been in Anderson's system, it hadn't been taken knowingly. For those who fought him more recently like Cormier, there were now much stronger doubts that Silva had been as clean as he'd claimed throughout his career. Fellow Brazilian Jose Aldo summed it up well. Innocent or guilty, the second failed test would be a red mark on Silva's career. There are precautions a fighter can take if they want to avoid these situations. Like the first time, a drawn-out process ensued, as Silva's camp tried to clear his name. In the end, they provided enough proof that the failed test resulted from a tainted supplement. While this still came with a 1-year suspension, it left Silva feeling born again, going so far as to say his legacy was restored. At that point, Silva was 43 years old. He had achieved more than most are capable of dreaming about, but had watched it nearly come undone. He'd worked hard to build an incredible career, becoming one of the UFC's greatest fighters ever. But the fight to clear his name seemed like the victory that satisfied him the most. There would be other losses that followed, and a future that no one could comfortably predict. They were late bumps on a road that had stopped being kind to Silva long ago. He had avoided the chance to end things at an incomparable height, battled with tough decisions in and out of the octagon, and reminded everyone how unbelievable his championship reign had been. But when he fell, it only proved that Anderson Silva, after all, was human. Hey, quick update. We're changing our name. At the end of August, you'll see this channel show up as Secret Base. Nothing else is changing on YouTube. We're still...
Wow, man. It just goes to show, like, it's crazy because these people do dedicate their lives to these sports. And to me, I think some people would be like, you got the money, you got this, you got that. And it's not even about that. I think it's more of an ego and pride thing. And it's a scared thing. Because these dudes been training their whole lives for fights. Like, people are scared to go into retirement. Like, even me, when I was playing basketball, I was like, damn, I'm scared of the thought that I don't have the opportunity to keep playing basketball. And, like, look at NBA players. Like, they've been doing it so long, it's scary, the future of not doing it no more. Cause you like, damn, what I'm gonna do? Like, how my days is gonna be? Am I gonna be okay? Such and such. And it's like these sports and these activities, I think it keeps people sane. You know what I'm saying? It keeps them going. And without it, it'd be like you gotta find new stuff, and it's like it's a lot. It's sad though. It's sad to see this shit, bro. That's crazy, bro. Shout out to Cole for the recommendation. This was a W video, and shout out to Secret Base for always consistently dropping bangers, man. But YouTube, I'm out of here, man. That like button, hit that subscribe button, comment other videos I should watch next, and I'm gonna catch you on the flip.